So, you just go ahead and pick up Mr. Microphone. This is what happens. I start a video, and then I look down at the keyboard and I go, oh. And I'll tell you why I say oh. Because look what's right over my monitor. Right there. It stares me right in the face. It stares me right in the face all the time, and yet I still forget. I have the monitor, or the microphone on the keyboard, and then when I finish a video, I put this down so I can type away, and then I forgot to put it back up for the next video. Now you know. Let's get to it. People ask me a lot about coaches. What do you think about Phil Housley? What do you think about Rick Tocchet? I think Tocchett's the problem. How about Jeff Blashill? What do you think is going to happen with Hackstall in Philly? What do you think about the job Travis Green's doing, Gerard Gallant? But it brings me back to an interesting topic. There are a lot of coaches who do well in one team's sphere, and not well in another's. Joel Quenneville, coach for St. Louis for a long time. St. Louis, good team while he's there. Good coach. When St. Louis fired him, I don't remember being overly upset. I remember just thinking, well, he did as well as he could with what he had. But I didn't think, wow, they just got rid of the greatest coach. Goes to Colorado, does okay, he gets fired there. And then Chicago picks him up, and I thought, well, I guess he's going to see his way through the league. 3 Stanley Cups later, and we all agree, not all of us, most of us will agree, except those who think Babcock or whoever else. Most of us will agree that Quenneville is the best coach in the NHL. But why is that? Because here's the problem. You're only as good as your roster, right? Scotty Bowman's an example of this. Now, I've defended Scotty Bowman as a coach, and I've said Scotty Bowman went into Pittsburgh, and he helped to get Pittsburgh back to a Stanley Cup after they lost Badger Bob. That was a shock to the system for Pittsburgh, and he kept them on the right track, and he helped them win back-to-back championships. And Scotty Bowman goes into Detroit, helps them become champions. But in the middle of that, way back, we can kind of forget it, he led these guys. So has Buffalo never had a good coach? No. Lindy Ruff got him to the final, but then he got fired. So was Lindy Ruff the reason that Buffalo failed? How did he get them to the final? There are little things I noticed with coaches. I remember with Vigneault, when he was in Vancouver, I would get frustrated because he didn't adapt. So a series, you'd see a change in momentum, and a team would adapt to something the Canucks were doing, and the Canucks wouldn't adapt back. As soon as that tide switched in favor of whatever team they were playing against, it was over. And you could see it. And I had that argument with people where they're like, well, we lost that one last night, but there's games to come. And I'm like, why? It's over. No, the momentum just shifted, and the Canucks won't answer it, so it's over. And then everybody would blame the Sedins, or they'd blame the fact there was a lot of Swedish players. And Vigneault was greeted as a hero when he first got to Vancouver and got them anywhere. And then by the end, everybody's like, he's always playing Tanner Glass, he's always playing Aaron Rome, and why do we keep bringing these guys back? And yet, all the prospects people wanted to see play didn't end up becoming stars anywhere else, didn't stay in Vancouver. And it all comes back to the topic of coaches and whether or not they're overrated. Especially in this day and age. So you have your head coach, your assistant coaches. Your assistant coaches may run the special teams, the defense. You may have one that runs the offense. You have a goalie coach that decides how the goalies are going to play. Head coach basically does line matching. Right? No, I know they do more than that. I'm just saying that from a certain perspective, head coach is just another cog in the wheel. He's not really the guy driving the ship. And while people in Montreal right now might say, well, Claude Julien's a bad mix for whatever's going on there, they can then turn around and say, Claude Julien's a good coach, so the other side would be Claude Julien's a good coach. Bergevin should go because it's the lineup that he gave Julien that's the problem. The thing is, if Montreal now goes on a winning streak, Julien looks like a hero, or does Bergevin look like a mad genius for the fact that his team eventually got it together? The 4 lines, the 6 defensemen, and the 2 goalies decide everything. A good coach can make a difference. But here's what gets me in this day and age, is coaches used to be allowed to go through bad seasons. And then when I was getting into hockey, that started to change. coaches were getting changed regularly. Actually, I have a magazine on that. So I'm reading this out of the 1983 yearbook. 34 years ago. Time was when a hockey coach had the lifestyle of a drill sergeant. He had respect, security, and earned more than his charges. He was able to plant fear into them by the mere suggestion of a trip to the minors. All this went the way of the 6-team NHL and overnight train ride. A brief scan of the last 12 months of NHL action is enough to convince any security-minded ex-jock to seek other work. The 1981-82 season had begun with the modest total of 6 new coaches. This is in 21 teams. Heads rolled as soon as the first puck dropped. 9 coaches were iced during the season. As of this writing, 5 additional off-season replacements were made. In the last year, 14 teams made at least one coaching change. Notice the terminology there, at least one. There was turnover, controversy, feuding, and fisticuffs. Coaches were in the news as often as the players. Of the 6 new coaches a year back, 3 remained. The most publicized, Herb Brooks with the New York Rangers, and one of the least known, Tom Watt in Winnipeg. Ironically, both came from college ranks and had been rivals during the 1980 Olympics. Tom Watt was brutal as a coach. He was a coach in Vancouver. He was brutal. I never understood how he kept getting jobs. I'm pretty sure he went Winnipeg, Vancouver, Toronto. And I remember other teams, I remember Toronto hiring him going, wait, why? What? No. Watt coached the Canadian Olympic team, and Brooks, as the world knows, had an unprecedented success with Team USA. And Herb Brooks had modest success at an NHL level, proving again that if you're a good coach at one level of hockey, it doesn't necessarily translate to another. Look at Dale Hunter when he went to the Washington Capitals. He enjoyed it so much, he left the NHL immediately. Bob Berry was a nice surprise selection by Montreal, jumping from Los Angeles. With the move of Roger Nielsen from Buffalo to Vancouver, Scotty Bowman began and ended this last season behind the Sabres bench. Bowman has announced that he will be back behind the bench this season. The 2 other new coaches last year, Parker McDonald in Los Angeles and Burt Marshall in Colorado, did not last the season. I have no idea who those guys are. If you're out there watching, I'm sorry, I'd never heard of you. Perhaps the success of Brooks and Watt dispelled the myth that college coaches were not NHL material. Watt had success? Wait, I gotta look this up. I can't believe what I'm reading here. Jets primed to fly high in Smythe Division. Here's a picture of Tom Watt. There's the coach. He had that look every game. You'd be like, what's he looking at? Let's go. Oh, he's just staring off into space. You just look up their record, because that whole Winnipeg was a success just throws me right off. That just throws this whole video right completely out of whack. If they had success, it didn't last. Because I know Watt didn't last another... I think he lasted one more year in Winnipeg, and that was it. I can actually look that up in my guide and record book. One of them, any of them. Yeah, Winnipeg made the playoffs and lost in 4. So that's the Stanley Cup picture, as they put it in here. NHL playoff scoring, Winnipeg Jets, blah, 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 blah. Gretzky Star of Awards show. There's Gretzky with a bunch of awards. People will argue he's not the greatest of all time because they don't know that he was the greatest of all time. Islanders first to win 3. There we go. There's the regular season. You look this up. I'm not saying that it didn't happen. I just need to see it before I can continue with this. National League, final scoring leaders, final scoring by teams, most penalty minutes. Really, you're not going to tell me? You aren't making me happy right now. Talk amongst yourselves. There's Howard Chuck. He was awesome. You mean they didn't have the standings in this one? They actually didn't have the standings. Really. They projected Winnipeg to be second. And LA, Vancouver, and Calgary after that. Well, this is 82-83. So this was the year the Canucks went to the final. Winnipeg was in the Smythe, but I don't think they were in the Smythe the year before. Jets have evolved from 21st in the league all the way to 10th. The most improved showing ever, 48 points by an NHL team. Only a first round loss to St. Louis put a damper on the season of success. So they switched divisions. But see, there it is again. So here's a magazine talking about Tom Watt, good coach Tom Watt, and I look back and I say he was probably one of the worst coaches that Vancouver had, not named Bill LaForge. LaForge was historically bad. So again, what makes a good coach and a bad coach? When is that line crossed? Because you put a good coach behind the bench on a bad team, they're likely still going to miss the playoffs. But Gerard Gallant's going to get Vegas there, right? Well, if Vegas falls back, it's not like we're going to say, oh, well, Gerard Gallant was the problem. So that's the thing. It's been a debate in the hockey world for a long time. Is the job done by an NHL coach overrated? The Winnipeg Jets made a huge stride, right? They also got Dale Hawerchuk into his prime. Their lineup got better. The Jets had a historically bad 80-81 season. 9 wins that year. The following season, improving by 48 points should have been expected. Just for pride's sake, it should have been expected. I don't think Tom Watt lasted very long past that season. He's a good example. I'm glad that I randomly grabbed a book. And that's how easy it is to go good coach, bad coach. Mike Yeo. I remember Mike Yeo taking over in St. Louis. Minnesota fans said, he sucks. It's not going to help. This is stupidity. Some said that. I'm not going to say all, because that's when I get in trouble. And yet, Mike Yeo helped the Blues get better fast. Doug Weight took over. There were some that said, Doug Weight, that's not going to help. It did. It absolutely did. Remember when Cassidy took over in Boston? My first reaction was, Cassidy? Are you serious? Ugh. Because I remembered Cassidy during his last go-around in the NHL, and I didn't think he was that impressive. So, and again, when you look at Jack Adams trophies for Coach of the Year, go look up how many Quenneville's won. If Quenneville's the best coach in the league, it doesn't show in the Jack Adams, because he doesn't win them. Why? Because his team's already good. The Jack Adams goes to the coach that has a team that overachieves that year. So again, because people ask me a lot, who's the best coach? Grade this coach. Grade that coach. You know what? Winning and losing will make you decide whether a coach is good or bad. Usually. In some locations, it doesn't matter. But when you see the same coach every single game, you're going to see things you don't like about him. I saw that with Julian in Boston a lot. I was totally down with him getting fired a couple of times before they won a Stanley Cup with him. Once they won a Stanley Cup with him, I couldn't say anything. But did he win it? Or did Tim Thomas drag him to it? And for years, Thomas was relegated to backup or not played at all when he clearly deserved a spot, and yet Boston was looking for anybody they could find to play net except him. So then is that on the GM? Is that on the coach? This is the dilemma. This is why it's so hard for me to talk about coaches. Rick Tocchet's a bad coach. I think he's had bad situations and bad teams. Is Phil Housley a bad coach? I don't know. There's large coaching staffs on most teams. One more example I'll give you from a Vancouver perspective is when Vigneault was coach here and Rick Bowness was an assistant coach. Bowness was given a lot of credit for the Canucks having a good record because Bowness worked with certain parts of the teams. I know he was special teams. I don't remember if he did defensive work too, but the idea was that they got better in special teams because of Rick Bowness, which made the Canucks better, which made Vigneault look better. I think when you look at a head coach and you go, that guy's the problem, it could be an assistant coach, could be a special teams coach, could be the goaltending coach, could be somebody not related to the coaching staff that's causing problems for the team. It could be a guy in the room, like one of the players is just making guys really aggravated. Maybe they just don't get along. There have been years where I've watched the Canucks and people have talked about the coach, and I think to myself, they don't even look like they like each other on the ice. I don't think the coach is there to babysit. He's there to line mix and figure out the best way to make it work, but he's not there to make everybody get along. So let me know what you guys think. Is coaching overrated? To me, GM, you can look more at a GM and moves they make. All a coach can do is take the parts that he gets from a GM and try to make it work with the rest of his coaching staff. No coach is an island. Back in '83, you didn't have all these assistant coaches. You didn't have special teams. You didn't have a guy watching all the footage from the game and coming up with strategies. The only video guy was Roger Nielsen, and he was mocked for it. He was mocked for watching so much video. They're like, you can't learn anything from video. You can't learn from watching it with your bare eyes. They were wrong. So how important is it to a coach for a team to have a winning season? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below, because I'm interested. It's the kind of debate that I like to have. Hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through, and thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you again soon.